Hey folks, Judd Zulgad, Andrew Krammer, 1500ESPN.com. Thanks for coming to the website for our continuing coverage of Vikings training camp here in Mankato. And Andrew, let's start off with actually what happened on Saturday night. The Vikings held their in-stadium session practice, certainly not a scrimmage. A year ago, in that environment, Teddy Bridgewater, the backup quarterback at the time, struggled a bit. How did he look a year later?
Yeah, he looked a lot more comfortable in those tight spaces. I remember last year, it was a few times where he was throwing picks left and right because he just wasn't able to, with the timing, the anticipation, all those kind of things that you want to see out of your quarterback, those were still a work in progress. Now, a year removed from that, he's the starter, he's working with more capable guys, and he looks more comfortable. And we talked to Teddy afterwards, after that Saturday night practice, and he said that a lot of it had to do with the fact that he's just making more reads at the line of scrimmage. So he's seeing the defenses better. He knows where he wants to go with the football. He's more decisive. And that helps when you get into the red zone in those tighter spaces.
Sure.
When you're out in the open and you have 50 yards downfield, the guys can run and get open a lot better. You don't need to be as timely. And so now that's more important for them to be able to do that and progress with Teddy, seeing that. And again, it's only, August 2nd. That happened on August 1st. But you can see that progression with Teddy overall from year 1 to year 2.
Start of week 2 of camp, and an interesting or intriguing storyline to me, Krammer, is this. Middle linebacker is very uncertain. If the Brad Childress Vikings or Les Frazier Vikings had shown up in Mankato and said, we don't know who plays there, I think the fans, the media, we all would have said, what are you talking about? How did this not get addressed in the offseason? But in this case, the Vikings don't know, and I sense no panic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when you look back on why there isn't, you look at Zimmer's track record, whether it was him in Cincinnati or Dallas, or just year 1 to year 2 with the Vikings. You see him turn around a defense that was one of the worst in the league, not only pass defense, but scoring defense. And just last year, with the same personnel, essentially, they turned it into a middle-of-the-pack defense, and now you're thinking, okay, they should be able to make that leap. But when you have an unquestioned spot like middle linebacker, you look at the micro-developments that they made with players last year, whether it was an Anthony Barr, Xavier Rhodes, Sharif Floyd, you're also not as worried about them using just in-house options to fill that spot. And so we saw Gerald Hodges, actually, an outside linebacker who got 7 starts last year for the injuries to Greenway and Barr, get some looks in the middle I think it was yesterday for the first time, and he continued that today as well. So they're really trying out their different options. Obviously, they drafted Eric Kendricks in the 2nd round. They feel he might be able to start right away in the middle, too, but it's either going to be him, Audi Cole, or Gerald Hodges, really, when they're sifting through those options right now.
Give me your best guess right now about what happens in week 1 of this season at that position, and then give me your best guess about the long-term future at that spot.
Yeah, I think Eric Kendricks will be the guy right away. Audi Cole's done some great things in spot starts, but Eric Kendricks to me is going to be the future on the outside where Chad Greenway currently sits. However, Chad Greenway is probably still going to be able to hold down that spot, at least for the beginning of the season, depending on how healthy he can be.
Sure.
So I think it'll probably be Greenway, Kendricks, Barr in your base set. However, though, you then go, what happens when Kendricks probably takes over that outside spot long-term for Greenway?
Right.
Then there's still that question in the middle, and that's why I think they're looking at guys like Audi Cole and Gerald Hodges right now, because they want to know when Greenway's out of the picture, who's going to be able to fill that middle spot? Can it be a guy we already have under roster? And I think that's why they're looking at those two guys.
Talk to me also about defensive shifting, because you've certainly seen a lot of shifting going on the last 2 nights with guys playing spots that you maybe didn't expect to see them.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer's got an interesting philosophy, too. A lot of people, I think, want to just do a first-team defense, a second-team defense, and just run it through like that. Mike Zimmer's actually mixing in guys with his starters all the time, guys that he sees potential in, whether we're talking about an Eric Kendricks, a Terrence Newman who starts on the outside and is now moving into the slot, which was a new development over the weekend, where Newman's taking those spots and snaps in the slot. And I talked to Mike Zimmer after practice today and asked him, is that kind of normal? And he said that Newman has done that in the past, but it was more about just trying to see, I think, with Xavier Rhodes on the outside, Trey Waynes on the outside, then can Newman kind of fill that spot in the middle maybe a little bit better than Captain Munnerlyn was before. But we're seeing movement all over the defense. You're seeing Scott Crichton rotate in, Daniil Hunter, the 3rd-round rookie at defensive end. They're trying to look for contributors that can come in and either rotate or possibly start for this defense. And they're not just running out first strings and backups. They're really mixing them all together.
Week 2 of training camp is underway. 1500ESPN.com is your place to come for complete coverage. We are 1 week away from an actual football game. And at this point in time, preseason football, as boring as that can be, Andrew, it sounds pretty appealing because it'll give you something to write about off a game. He's Andrew Krammer. I'm Zulgad. Thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com.